So today I'm totally tearing up the ladder with a deck that trumps any removal as our threats just keep coming in harder and faster than your opponents can deal with. Hey everyone, Hex here, and today I'm using a lesser played strategy that is totally supported in Standard right now, and it's really strong. Don't forget though to like, and if you haven't yet, subscribe below. It massively helps out, and I want to thank you all for the support that you give this channel. But onto this deck, and we're in Gruul. Most of our creatures are legendary hasters, and we have a cool late game interaction to deal that killing blow. So let's start there with Ognis, the Dragon's Lash, and Goddric. So Ognis is a 4-cost 3/3 with haste that says whenever a creature you control with haste attacks, create a tapped treasure. So the idea is to jam this card on turn 4 and attack, hopefully with a bunch of hasters that you have, and make a bunch of treasure. The following turn, play Goddric, then attack. Suddenly Goddric becomes a 4/4 fly and you have all the treasure from the previous turn to pump it up for lethal. I'm very surprised how many times this actually worked today. As all our creatures generally have haste, that is a lot of treasure that you're going to be making each turn. So haste wise, we have Samut, a first strike vigilant hasty 2/3 that says whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, if that creature ETB this turn, draw a card. This is a card today that just seemed to keep on giving. I've got Ruby, Daring Tracker. It's a 1/2 with haste for 2 mana that taps for either a green or red mana, and when Ruby attacks, if you control a creature with 4 power or greater, she gets +2/+2 until end of turn. I've got Gingerbrute and Feldon. Both have haste, both do a lot of work for us. I don't normally like creatures that don't block, but Feldon fits the 2-drop slot great for us today, especially paired with Ognis or Samut. Then to the 2 non-hasters, but essential in our deck, we've got Halana and Alena to buff our creatures, and the reach is definitely needed for us to block those Phoenix chicks, whilst Hajar can be sacrificed to give all our legendaries +1/+0 and indestructible until end of turn. And apart from the Gingerbrute, all our creatures are indeed legendary, so this is truly perfect for us. I'm jamming Kumano for loads of value and hopefully fueling turn 2 3/3 Feldons, Audacity to boost our creatures, give them trample and draw us cards, and finally Animist's Might. What a great card for us, as it's a 3-cost sorcery that costs 2 less if it targets a legendary creature you control. Then target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power to target creature or planeswalker your opponent's control. It is our only removal in the deck, but is more than enough to take care of all the bigger threats that we're going to be encountering. I've got 24 lands today, and that is the deck. I believe this is super strong in the meta that I was facing. I played countless opponents with what seemed like infinite removal, but our threats just kept coming in bigger and better than before until we totally overrun our opponents. I ended up with about 75% win rate on the ladder, winning 16 games in about 90 minutes. If, however, you have any thoughts on this deck, you can let me know in the comments below. You can find me over on Twitter, and as always, thank you for watching. Alright, on the draw, and this is fine. I think we'll keep this one. Put it with a turn 1 Phoenix chick, so points towards mono red. I feel like our deck is similar and comparable to mono red, but I feel like our threats are just bigger and better, so if they need to draw a big threat on like turn 3 or 4, they might find a Phoenix chick, but we might find something like an Ognis, so we'll see how this goes. But classic turn for our opponent, Feldon and Phoenix chick. But we got Kumano down, and I think we'll just go for Ruby. This will set us up for a turn 4 Ognis, if this survives. And its 3 toughness is really going to only be able to be dealt with a Lightning Strike. Opponent with Reckless Impulse, though. So I kind of like where we are already. Obviously, against Mono Red, it's very explosive. That is a Swift Spear. And the opponent takes us down to 12. We find a Goddric off the top. So we could play Ognis here, but I feel against mono red we just need to be careful. I think Ognis this turn will net us a whole bunch of treasure. Obviously we're missing out on the 2 damage from Ruby here, but I feel like next turn we're going to be able to win, if we don't die now that is. We are on 12 and they have 4 damage on board. Reckless Impulse is going to add a extra power to the Swift Spear. Another chick, another Swift Spear, and if they, yep, I think we're going to be okay here. We do go down to 5, but we can just jam Goddric, and we have 3 mana to pump into this. But more than enough damage here to get over the line, so I'm really happy with the way that this one worked out. We even had Gingerbrute in our hand if we needed to give Goddric its celebration before attacks. But opponent goes down to -2 and we take care of mono red. Alright, on the play. This hand is got a little curve going on, so I'm happy with this. Obviously, Gingerbrute turn 1. Doesn't seem like much, but it's a good early card, and then later on we can give it unblockable if we need to. Opponent with a Kumano. So are we up against mono red again? We may well be. So we'll play Ruby, and we'll attack our opponent for 2. Next turn, obviously, we've got Goddric. But we'll see what happens. Opponent with a Feldon. Okay, so Feldon as a 3/3 is going to hit us. That is a Gingerbrute. Alright, well, we're going to play Goddric, and I am going to actually Animist's Might the Feldon. I feel like if we attack our opponent here, and they come back at us with 5, they may end up winning the race, so we'll deal with this. They obviously get to look at the top few cards of their library, put one in their hand, and it was a Mechanized Warfare, which I'm sure they're going to play now, otherwise they risk losing it. It is indeed, so they do attack us as well, okay. I think sometimes you might want to keep creatures back. We will attack our opponent here and leave open the Plaza of Heroes, I think. Also, don't really see the need to play Gingerbrute. Maybe we can double spell next turn to give our Goddric flying. Here comes the Swift Spear. Could we die now? That is the question that I am thinking. So this is 5, 6, 7 damage coming at us. End of Festivities is 2 more. And then that, obviously, Prowess is the Swift Spear. We have our Plaza of Heroes available. So we can save our Ruby here. Don't forget, most of our creatures in our deck are legendary. So we have the sweet interaction with Plaza of Heroes. And opponent is down to 8. And I believe we have lethal here because we can double spell. So we can play Goddric here. This obviously is going to legend rule one of them, but this counts as a permanent entry in the battlefield. We've sandbagged this Gingerbrute. That makes Goddric a 4/4. That also triggers Ruby, and opponent dies. What a great win there against mono red. Alright, on the draw here. Okay, our hand's pretty nice if we can find a 3rd mana. Opponent with an Ichor Drinker. Okay, so it's a 1/1 with lifelink. Must admit, not a card I've seen often, so maybe they're up to some shenanigans. But we got to play our Kumano, and opponent with another drinker. And we find a mountain, which is pretty good for us. Gonna play Ruby. Obviously, this could easily get killed. But I'm happy to take the risk here. And Ruby allows us to cast our Gingerbrute. And Gingerbrute is disfigured. Okay, so they did have a removal spell. Not a removal spell you see often. There's Sheoldred's Edict. Okay, so more removal for our opponent. And they take us down to 17 and go up to 22. So against these removal heavy decks, we just keep slamming our threats. They've pretty much always got haste. Opponent down to 16 again. They now need to deal with a Etchin and a Goddric. That is Gix. Yes, that's nice little synergy there with the 2 lifelinkers, as they get to draw 2 cards and actually not lose any life. And another drinker, okay. So is our game plan here just to keep enabling Goddric's celebration and keep smashing over the top? I think so in this turn. Hajar and Gingerbrute. And we can attack our opponent for, what, 5 in the air? So we've got some blockers now to deal with these 1/1s. And I think I will block the 1/1s, even with Gingerbrute. Otherwise they just keep gaining too much life. So I guess they're looking for something like Sheoldred. That's a gruesome realization, drawing 2 cards, losing 2 life. And opponent goes for the throat our Goddric. Well, either they didn't read Hajar, or they didn't necessarily know what it does, because they should have really probably gone for Hajar there. But they are attacking us with their 1/1s, 2 of them, and Gigs. Well, I'll happily trade my Gingerbrute for one of those and block the other one. They exile due to the etching of Kumano, so they don't get their graveyard value. And Ognis here, this is a huge attack by us. That is 9 damage to our opponent. They block our 3/3 with their 1/1. They go down to 4. And have we managed to outmaneuver this deck that I haven't seen much before? Go for the throw at Ognis. Okay, so they have more removal and an Edict. This game's not over yet. We'll get rid of our Etch in here. Keep Goddric around. Another Drinker, okay. And they attack us with Gix. And opponent goes down to 4. We find a Ruby and Alena, and this should be just a lethal attack in the air by playing these 2 cards. So 2 cards triggers Goddric, and Goddric should swing for lethal as a 6/6 or a 7/7 if you want to sack our treasure there. Alright then, on the draw, a couple of Gingerbrutes is a pretty nice start, especially with a Kumano in our hand. So we'll definitely drop Kumano here. Opponent with a Rakdos land, it looks like. So we're going to try and come out the blocks pretty fast, I think. Opponent with a Harvester. Unfortunately, that blocks the Gingerbrute quite nicely, even though our Gingerbrute here is a 2/2. So we could activate it so that we can attack our opponent, but I really don't want them to attack us for 3. I think we're going to have to use these Gingerbrutes as a little bit of a obstacle for their attacks. So they play a Voldaran Bloodcaster. Sure. I mean, this is the turn we want to be playing Goddric, as the Kumano has now turned to an Etching. So I think that's definitely going to be our turn here. Ruby would have been nice to play to get us some more mana for next turn. But I think Goddric is the play that I want to do here. So let's jam this. Yeah, opponent definitely has something, or it's just their blood token that's holding priority. But attacking them with a 4/4, I think it's a pretty nice turn. And I think we'll attack with the 2/2/2s as well. If they want to block, I don't mind. Clearing the board is my #1 priority at the minute. We don't have much removal. Obviously, we have that Might in our hand, but the Etchin and the Gingerbrute are fine here to almost sacrifice to get their creatures off the board. We do have Goddric. Opponent with Malevolent Witchkite in the graveyard. Not a card you see often. I'll put that on the screen. And that is Halana and Alena. Alright, well, we're going to go for Samut here, I think. See if we can draw a card through Samut. Could have played Ruby there, set ourselves up for Halana and Alena next turn. But what does Samut find? That is a Hajar, okay. Opponent with a Gumdrop Poisoner to make a food token. So not really sure what we're up against here. A little bit of a brew it seems like, but I guess they're just trying to create a load of artifacts. And there's the Anvil, yeah, that makes sense now. So I think what our deck could do with is a Bard class, if that was still around in Standard. I think our deck would be perfectly suited for that. We have a lot of legendary sort of double mana symboled cards, but I'm really enjoying this deck today. I don't want to say it, but I think it might even be better than mono red. But please don't quote me on that one. Our top decks are just, I feel, just so strong every time, and the haste just means that our opponents just really can't keep up if they've got removal spells. But this turn we're attacking on 3 fronts with our Samut, Goddric and Gingerbrute. Opponent is blocking, and I guess they sack, which is why we attach with Gingerbrute, as the chances of them allowing Gingerbrute to die through their creature were pretty low. But they are down to 8. We do have Hajar if we need to sacrifice that to save our board. Opponent with the Gumdrop Poisoner. And if that is their turn, I think we're quite good here. We can use Animist Might next turn, which is a bite spell, so the lifelink of the poisoner is not going to matter at all here. And don't think it really matters what creature we use. I guess we should have used the 3/3 in case they had a cut down, but Hajar would have saved the card anyway, and we have more than enough for lethal here, especially as we're dropping Ognis, the Dragon's Lash, and we're going to smash our opponent, going to create 5 treasures, or 4 treasures, but the opponent scoops it up anyway. Alright, on the draw, and the hand is very medium. Our land isn't particularly great. We do find a mountain though, so we could play that to cast the Kumano now, but I really want to be playing a turn 2, so let's play this Rockfall Vale. Obviously I'm going to regret this if we draw a untapped land here, which we do. A Copperline Gorge, okay. So obviously we should have played Mountain turn 1, Kumano, and then this would have been a 3/3 Feldon, but instead of that, let's go for Hajar here. Opponent is holding open 2 mana, and that is Mate Disappeared. So I don't necessarily mind that card going. And we find another mana, okay. Okay, so our hand isn't particularly great here. I think we'll drop Feldon here. Looks like we might be up against soldiers with the recruitment officer, but they did Mate Disappear, and I'm not sure that's always played in soldier decks. Resolute Reinforcements instead, though. They're going to double block our Feldon. No, they're not. Alright, they go down to 18, and we'll play Kumano, and our hand is pretty weak right now. If they jam a whole ton of soldiers here, we're probably going to be in a bit of trouble. Yep, Brutal Cathar is a bad card for us to see. Takes care of our only creature, and that is a Feldon though. Annoying because we can use Feldon here and the Animist Might to get rid of the Brutal Cathar, but Legends rule will dictate that we'd have to lose one of our Feldons anyway. So I think just to save some damage, we're going to have to take care of the Recruitment Officer, and this card doesn't block, so smashing our opponent down to 12. This is why I don't like creatures that can't block. I know Feldon has a lot of upsides in other situations. An opponent with a Knight Errant of Eos, and they do it for 2, so they can only find 2 or less mana cards. They find a Veteran and a Reinforcements. They play their Veteran, and I think this game's going to get away from us. We do find Samut, but our attacks are pretty bad here. I will play it anyway. Feldon doesn't block, so we have to really attack with that. They block though with their Knights, so we do manage to see a few cards off the top of our library. And they are pretty bad. Kumano, 2 lands, and an Animist Might. Really bad cards, to be honest. We'll take the Might, and I guess we just use it on maybe the 1/1, the Veteran. They've got Reinforcements for next turn, so they would be gaining a load of life, and I don't think we can keep up with life gain and the pressure that they're putting on the battlefield. Knight Errant of Eos is absolutely not the card we want to be seeing there. And they find a Harbin and a Zephyr Sentinel, and drop a Coppercoat Vanguard. Alright, so they are absolutely popping off here. And we didn't find a Goddric in this game, so our land creatures are pretty bad as the Brutal Cathar turns to the Brute. And I guess if they double spell here, they're going to nab one more of our creatures. Luckily, the Harbin doesn't actually trigger here. I think it's to do with the Brutal Cathar. But we'll just block and just try and deal with the threats as possible. I guess they've got Zephyr Sentinel, so hopefully they use it maybe on the Resolute Reinforcements, which means our Etchin will survive. And what are they going to look to save? They look to save their Vanguard, okay. Alright, well, we go down to 9. Opponent's on 11. And yeah, there's the transformation of Brutal Cathar, and they're going to take out our Samut, and I think we're in a huge problem here. We find Audacity. Well, I'm just going to attack. Hopefully they block and we find some gas underneath it. I'm not sure what we're looking for. They go down to 9. That is an Ognis. Okay. and it is a Vanguard and a Brutal Cathar to take care of our creature. And that one is game over to a Soldier deck that we just couldn't keep up with in the end. Alright, on the play here with a couple of Kumanos, so just need a turn 2 play. And then I really like where we are with our hand. We can always play Kumano next turn if we need to. That is an Animist Might, and I don't mind that draw. We can use that over the next few turns, hopefully to nab one of our opponent's big threats. But 2 Kumanos is going to be a decent amount of pressure. I think our best top deck now would be like a Goddric. Another Samut, okay. So in these type of decks, I've just got the 3 copies of each legendary creature. I don't really want to be drawing multiples if absolute possible, but you could absolutely, if you feel up for it, play 4 copies of each of these legendary creatures. Opponent with a go for the throat there on our 3/4 Samut. And they play a land and pass a turn, so presumably holding more removal spells. Which is why these etchings are so good, as they are producing a lot of value and getting in there for a lot of damage. And they really don't like these Samuts. But we take the opponent down to 12. Next turn we have Halana. That is Vran. And an Edict. Okay, so they are absolutely here with infinite removal, it seems. Halana and Alena we can play, and I'm just going to trigger the Etching of Kumano, or trigger Halana and target the Etching. So that is a 4/4 going at our opponent. Elas Ilkor. Okay, what's nice about that card is that our Animist Might is a bite spell, so our creature will survive. Play land first because we then also have Plaza of Heroes open if we need to save Halana and Alena. But we'll take care of this Death Toucher, as that's going to get in our way, and we can have a lethal attack here that the opponent has to chump. They chump our Etching, but they go down to 6. And that is Sheoldred. The 4/5 makes us sacrifice a creature. Well, we'll sacrifice Halana and Alena here, as the 6/6 is still a lethal attack this turn that they're going to have to chump with Sheoldred. We have the other Halana and Alena available. Guess we'll play it. So a little bit of overkill here, but it would have been nice to find another creature along the route. But we're just, every threat we get is just going to be a hasty attack, so opponent's going to have to find a way to keep up with this. Sheoldred's Edict takes care of Halana and Alena. And that is Ayara, okay. So we're just going to, oh no, Animist Might is going to clear that. So we were just going to smash and the opponent have to chump again, but we can take them out. And that's how you beat a deck with what seems like infinite removal. Alright, on the play, this hand is pretty bad. A couple of Ognuses, not what we need. This hand's better, and we can put a Samut to the bottom of our library. And turn 1 here, Gingerbrute. And hit our opponent all the way down to 19. I think Gingerbrute is the perfect addition to this deck. Fills that 1-drop slot. Also, the fact it can be made unblockable is absolutely crucial. But no real turn 2 plays here except for this Kumano that we can play. That is going to set up a nice little Samut next turn. And that is Thalia. It doesn't really affect us too much in our deck, as our deck is very creature heavy. But we get a nice hasty 3/4 now, which is going to draw us a card if this connects with our opponent's face, which it does. The Vigilance is nice as well. And that is Harbin, so it looks like we're up against Soldiers again. And a Recruitment Officer, okay. So Soldiers absolutely trounced us last time. So interested to see how we get on here. I'm not going to take any major risks though. I'm just going to jam this Ognis. And I'm going to attack with the 3-4 and the 3-3. I want them to block with Harbin. That card is going to kill us if we're not careful. We have Halana and Alena as the only ways to deal with flyers. They do chump though. And Animus Might is going to be a really nice way to deal with Harbin here. They reveal a veteran and probably going to play that, which they do. So that Lord effect pumps up all their creatures, or makes all their creatures +1/+1. Another Animus Might. Alright. Surely we can find a way to try and win this game. I am slightly concerned about the 2 open mana that they've got like a Reinforcements or a Zephyr Sentinel. So I think we'll just take care of the Harbin, and we're just going to attack here with the Gingerbrute and Samut maybe. Don't have to get too crazy. We can't win the game this turn, and we can hold the Animus Might for a future turn. But in the meantime, we are gaining a load of treasure here. Play our tap land, and I guess we play Kumano. So opponent down to 5. Oh, they scoop it up anyway. Didn't expect that, to be honest. Alright, on the draw here. And yeah, pretty decent hand. I think most of our hands are going to be okay unless we have too much land or not enough land. Creature-wise, all of our spells are 4 mana or less, so normally we have a decent curve. But opponent with a Haywire Might that can actually deal with a Gingerbrute. It also can block the Gingerbrute as well. So let's play Feldon, and let's just attack with Feldon. I think the Might is specifically in the deck to deal with artifacts, so they would probably have no problems in just blocking our Gingerbrute there. Don't want to throw away our creature for the sake of it, and Demolition Field takes care of our Gorge. Sure. That takes up their whole turn. I'm pretty happy with that. They find a Plains, so they're not a Jund deck. So they were using the Demolition Field there to fix their mana, it seems. Well, they just have a 1/1, so I guess we play Samut here. Okay, there's some kind of priority from our opponent. And yeah, we'll just attack with our 2-2 and our 2-3, I guess. They chump, okay. They really don't want us to draw a card. They gain 2 life, and Feldon's going to take them back down to 17. So a board wipe now wouldn't be the worst, because we have 2 hasters in our hand. But it's March of Otherworldly Lights. Takes care of our Etchin there. And I guess we play the Kumano and Ruby for another attack. Taking our opponent down to the life total of 12. A couple of Goddrics over the next couple of turns. Surely this is going to be a win for us here. I guess cards that gain life would be annoying. March of Otherworldly Light. And I think we're going to be okay here. Even though they are finding ways to deal with our creatures, we'll play Ognis now. It's going to gain a couple of treasures for us. But next turn is going to be a huge turn with the Kumano becoming Etchin, which is going to trigger Goddric when we play it. Ognis is also going to trigger Goddric in itself when we attack with everything. Yeah, so that's game over, absolutely. Opponent scoops it up.